Hello crafty friends, my name is Diana and welcome back to my cave. Today in my channel we're gonna do what you guys probably saw in the cover of this video, a journal, but I found these shower curtain hooks, rod things. I got them. There was a thing at the clearance aisle and they were 50 cents, so I got a packet. So the way we're gonna start this off is I'm gonna sand it. Remember, I'm gonna break that smooth surface so I can paint it. And while that's painting, I'll show you how I painted it in a minute. But while that's painting, I'm gonna prepare my covers. I wanted to make a tuck cover. I think, I'm not sure if that's what you call them, but I've heard them being called tucked couches, so I'm gonna call it tucked cover. So I'm gonna show you how I did it, and most likely it's gonna be how not to do it, because I feel I messed up left and right. And these are the colors I'm gonna dye my cover. I'm using acrylic paint because I like this color of fabric, but I like this other color. I don't know. I think that's just the color I was going for. But because I have an idea of using pink and blue, I was craving that color, so I was just because of that. Not because I don't like yellow. But anyway, so I'm dyeing my cloth and I'm using acrylic paint. And I don't put that much paint in there. You guys saw it was just a squeeze. And I'm just gonna dye it. I double dyed it in this water. I did the second one off camera just because I don't want to make the video longer for you guys. It becomes a little boring. But I did this once and then I let it dry. Then I did it again and then I let it dry it again. So you'll see at the end it's a little darker than what you guys see now. And my next step is to measure where I want the holes. I'm not too sure how you guys do that, but in my process is I go either 1 inch or 1.5 inches from the top to the bottom towards the middle, and then I do the same from the bottom towards the top, and then in the center I just split the difference between the two holes that I already did. My first initial thought was that I was going to use the crocodile puncher, because that's a tougher one than just a simple hole punch, because this cover was really thick. So my first thought was that I was gonna just like do a bunch of repetition and just make the hole bigger, but it wasn't working, because as I was pressing onto the hole punch, and trying to repeat the hole pattern again right next to that hole, it was kind of wanting to go towards the hole that was already made. Anyways, to say the least, I was like really struggling making the hole with the hole puncher. So I was trying to do the labor of the cutting, but I think I ended up doing more labor trying to do the hole punch with that. So I ended up using the knife after all. It was just a lot easier. If you get a really sharp, I got a new knife on my blade cutter, and I got a box cutter, so it ended up being quite easy. They were not as perfect as roundly as I would like them to be, but at the end of the day, the way it kind of like the fabric is going to cover over this cover, you won't really be able to see it, as long as the curtain rod, not the curtain rod, but the curtain rod hook or hanger fits in there, which is pretty thick. It was about maybe close to maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. So as long as I make that big hole, I could have used a drill, but I'm thinking about it right now, not before. Anywho, so I'm gonna grab this kind of like backing to where I'm going to use my needle and tuck my fabric. I'm gonna make a hole in the middle of it. Now the hole is not centered. You guys can see that it's centered closer to one side rather than the other, and that's because you gotta account for the space where your rods are gonna go in. You want to center your hole from where your hook or your hole is for your binding, from that towards the others. I mean, you want to center from there to the other edge, not from edge to edge. You guys know what I mean? Because then it's gonna look awkward, and chances are like in my case, that if you have a big hole, it's going to get right in the middle of it and it's not going to look clean. So you got to center it from the binding, not the binding, but the hook hole to the other edge. Okay, for this part, you guys will see all kinds of confusion because that's exactly what happened with me. I wanted, I had the idea, it was in my head, but I wasn't too sure how I wanted to approach it. So I grabbed this. You guys know I buy a lot of plants, and I bought some plants online. And nowadays, the plants usually come wrapped. The leaves come wrapped in this like fluff, and so I'm recycling that fluff to use as the tucking thing. Ideally, I think I would have rather have used that flat, like fluff foam that I've seen people use on like couches and stuff and chairs. I think that would have been a lot easier for me to work with, and I would have probably, if I would have put a second thought into it, used that for my first tucking experience. I think that would have played better on my end or for the video purposes. But for me, a big part of doing my craft is to recycle as much as I can. As you guys can see, that envelope is also a mail that I received, and so for me, it's all about reusing and recycling and making art out of it. So part of the art for me, it has to be that it's recycled or that it was picked up from the trash. This book, I picked it up from the trash. I usually I don't go dumpster diving per se, but if I'm going to the swap meet or the flea market and if I see books that are being tossed, I always pick them up. And so I have a plethora of books. Now, before I glue this backing where I'm going to sew the tucking to, I'm going to make a grid. My first line was from corner to corner. It's catty corners. I made a line, and then I just used my ruler as the thickness of my lines, and I just scoot over my ruler, mark the line, scoot over my ruler, mark another line. Now, for some reason, my camera didn't record my beginning, but it's just as simple as I grabbed a needle and my thread, and I started my tucking idea that I have in my head is that you put a button on the front, and then like you put a button and then you put your needle through, you put your thread, then you hook in the button, then you put your thread back into the hole, right? But because I didn't want any buttons and I didn't have nothing to tuck, what I did is I just scooted over like 1/8 of an inch or just a millimeter or whatever, just so it grabs a little bit of fabric, and then tucked it back in, like kind of bring it in. Now you want to tuck it in, but at the same time you got to be careful not to break whatever little excuse me, whatever little thread you grabbed. But yeah, that was my whole goal. So what I'm doing here is I'm pushing my thread, my needle, through the cardboard, and then bringing up, kind of like, if you guys can see, I'm bringing up my fabric towards the needle because I didn't want to pull in through the thread, through the fabric, and break my fabric. You guys see here, I put my needle down, and then I put weight on it, but then I put my weight on my hand and then bring up the fabric. See, and I found that easier for me to stretch my fabric out so that the tucks are, so that the fabric is nicely stretched. You don't want to like just poke, and then you have all kinds of chaos. It has to be stretched. Now, I didn't and my phone is older than other phones, so it tends to like die on me a lot faster now that I'm recording. So these two things I didn't record. One, when I cut the fabric in the middle of that hole, and then I did the tucking of that fabric and glued it so that it makes a hole. Then when I had that ready, I glued that onto the cover that we prepared earlier, with the hard cover. I made a hole on it, and then I glued the fabric. I pulled the fabric that I had tucked onto that cover. So as you guys remember, last week I made a journal with a bunch of paper extra, and I grabbed the pinks and the blues from that cover, and I double dipped them. As you guys know, I have a video on double dipping. So my first dip was pink that I did for last week, and the second color that I did was I put a little bit of acrylic brown. I didn't want to do it so much because I don't want my paper to be brown. I want it to be more like a rose, like antique rose, like a vintage pink. And I wanted to dim down the brightness of the pink from last week. So I put just a little bit of brown in my water. And what I'm doing here is with the lighter acrylic paint, I'm bringing out the the upper parts of the tuck, and I went back with my dark acrylic green, and I on the holes I just put a little bit more. That's why it looks a little darker. But just to paint over the thread, it was a gold thread. I thought I would want it to see it, but I didn't like it so much, so I went back in with that acrylic, the original acrylic paint that I dyed my fabric. I went back with that and I dyed them all the same. So I grabbed my scrapbook paper of these cherry blossoms, and I just cut about a few of them to decorate my cover. And, I put a backing of just a random piece of paper of like letter typed, like a typed I love you," or something like that, something repetitive. And it was just type press letters, and I used that. I put it on the back, and I used that as the backing of my cover. And that was it. And then what I did is to embellish it. You guys know I print. I'm able to print on canvas. I usually leave a little bit of space in between the words, so I'm able to use like my tags and stuff like that. But I like to use screws on these canvas ones, because they're very hard. They're not easily like broken and stuff because it's a primed canvas. So anyway, so I grabbed love grows here, and what I did is I pre-hold the canvas, but then I grabbed that hole and I hole punched all the way down to the cover, and that's just to start the screw. But the screw is self tapping. It's just kind of to guide it where I want it to go, and to help the screwing in for a little bit. So once I guided that screw in and I did it, um, it looked really cute. I really liked how it came out. The screws I got these I think at Home Depot, and they're on the framing screws, like little aisle. Anyway, so I grabbed some of my flowers, and you guys know I have this. I use this tacky glue for like pretty much everything. I think one day this glue is gonna save my life. Just kidding. But I have been asked a lot for what kind of glue I use. I use a glue that my husband brings me from TJ, which is across the border in Mexico from our side in San Diego, and I like it because one is it hardens really nice, but then it gives me flexibility. Like it takes a whole day to dry, but it gives me flexibility because I always change my mind all the time, and I need a glue that understands me. You know what I mean? So this glue, I love how it understands me. It doesn't leave residue, and it doesn't like you know seep over, and it gives me. I mean, I just love it. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna grab a butterfly, and it's one of those butterflies that are kind of like see through. I think it's vellum, um, but it has like this like a shiny backing to it, and they're pretty sturdy, and I really like that about it, and I wanted to take advantage of that. So what I'm gonna do is only I'm peel half of that butterfly, and I'm going to leave half of it on, so peel it half and half, so kind of like flying. So when you move the cover, it looks like the butterfly is moving. And I'm also gonna do that I did that with the flower. You guys will see how I did it. But this is me determining what I was gonna do. Off camera, it took me like an infinity of hours trying to determine where I was gonna put the butterfly. Um, I know out of all the making of the book, and what takes me longer to do is to decide where I'm going to put the butterfly, right? So like I said, I'm going to cut only half of that backing, acrylic backing, and I'm going to use the other half. And so, but the glue that it comes with, I got these butterflies from China, or I think that's where it came from. But anyways, I ordered them from AliExpress. Yes, AliExpress, Alibaba Express, and I got a bunch of butterflies and mushrooms and stuff like that. And so the glue is good if you glue it on paper, but not on fabric. And so what I did is I used my glue, and to do the following, this to do the hooks, this is what I did. I used a spray can, but it has to say primer. Ladies, trust me. Avoid all the headaches. Use a primer. When it comes to fabric, I mean not fabric, plastic. Um, it helps you. It helps out, like, because it's, I'm going to use it as a binding for my binding of my journal. So what you want to do is not for it not to be like scraping off every time you use it or every time you open it and close it. So I feel like it has to have a primer, and then I used that metal brushed metal paints that you get from Walmart, and they're I think they're $1. So I really like this. I don't know if it's a new color. They sent me a box. I thought I had all the colors from them, but the apple barrel. But this is a new color. This is a new gold tone, and I'm really enjoying it. It's called brushed gold, and so um, it's become my favorite. And I don't know if how long you guys are gonna see it in all the videos. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm gonna do next week, but hopefully, maybe it might have some gold. I don't know. And so I continue the theme inside my covers, and I glued some of those flowers onto the inside as well. For the papers, I'm going to, these are already dried. Remember, I double dipped them on the brown. So you see there's still a little bit of pinkish, but see how that tone now matches kind of my flowers that I made that are part of the journal? They're like a little dusty pink, and I really like that, how it came out. I like that they're not brown at all. I like it that it's just a little dusty. You know what I mean? So I'm determining how deep I have to go in with my holes, and instead of like cutting them out, I'm going to use a hole puncher. After I mark, but at first I have to mark one, and then I marked one, hole punched it, and then I used that as reference for all the other ones. And then the next thing you guys know, I have to punch out 1,000,002 holes, and yeah, enjoy. Once I was done, I began my assemblage, as per se. So I started assembling my papers. Now, I wish I would have put more paper on this, or I would have dyed more paper. I did dye that blue, but I changed my mind. I didn't want blue paper on there. Just because one of the reasons is because the tone of blue, at the end I felt like it didn't match my journal as much as I thought it would be. So that's why I changed my mind. But I wish I would have had more pink paper, or maybe I grabbed maybe some of the other colors that I had, because I had a pink, purple, yellow, blue, or something. And so I wish I had more paper, because it came out very skinny. And at the end of the day, it was just to kind of show you what the process of my covers are. I know that inside is not as relevant, but I feel like once this journal is filled up a little bit more, it's gonna look cute, or cuter, I guess. So once I install, sorry, or not install, but put, or assemble, remember. Once I assemble it, I kind of liked it. I like how it looked. It works just fine. It works better than what I thought it would in my head. In my head, I thought it was gonna be wonky and like unable to turn, but it works just like a 3D binder, and I really liked it. It looks like very what is it called? I don't know. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I could also see it in a pirate theme. I know it's kind of like a contrast, but it reminds me of a pirate too. Anyways, for my maker's label, please, ladies, remember, if you make a journal, try to sign it. It is your piece of artwork. It is you. It is you talking to the future you if you're gonna work on it, or to the person that received it if you're gonna gift it. Is personalizing. Is reminding them that you put a lot of time and effort and heart into these pieces of work. A lot of these journals that I see out there, man, there's just a piece of artwork, and so proudly sign them. I always sign them. I don't put my name. I just put my signature, and I put the year that I make it, because I feel a lot of the times journals take longer than like months or days. So just because you work here and there, but yeah, I always put the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this journal. I hope you guys liked today's video. If you did, please consider liking this video and putting a thumbs up. It really helps me. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, keep on crafting. Till next time, guys. Bye.